you lost in the chaotic whirlwind of day-to-day busyness? Do you yearn for a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life? Welcome to Be You, Your Story, Your Purpose, the podcast dedicated to empowering women on their journey of self-discovery and finding their true purpose through their own story. I'm your host, Brenda Simmons. Welcome, my friends, to the Be You, Your Story, Your Purpose podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I heard over the weekend. I was at a meeting, and one of the guys that was in this meeting, he said, the best way to make a big change is to look at the small things you do often and change those. Now, he was quoting somebody else, and I can't remember who it was he was quoting, but those were not his words. He was passing that on. But I really want to, I listened to that and I thought, yes, I totally believe that. And it flies in the face of this saying that goes around so much online and, in speeches and all sorts of things. And that is that massive action is required for massive results. Now, while I do believe that this may work for some people, this has never worked for me. And it's because it's very heavy in masculine energy. It's very exhausting, and it burns me out. If I have to be constantly doing these great, big, huge things and constantly be working, 16, 17 hours a day, and at some point, I just personally lose steam. And so I don't believe that massive action is required for massive results. I believe that small, consistent things done is going to bring bigger changes than constantly looking at the massive action. So you kind of consider that the fable, the tortoise and the hare, right? And so what happens is that hare goes and goes and goes and goes until it just poops out. It has no more energy. And so it has to rest longer and falls asleep. And meanwhile, the tortoise is just just doing his thing, just going a little bit at a time. And eventually he wins the race because he hasn't expended so much energy trying to do everything all at once and get there as fast as he can. He's just doing things very, very consistently. And that is what made the biggest change. So I'm going to read this again. The best way to make a big change is to look at the small things you do often and change those. It reminds me of the book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you haven't read or listened to this, I suggest you do that because it's actually really, really good. So James Clear, he relates this story about the British cycling team. And I'm going to relate that story here because it's so applicable to what I'm talking about. In 97 years, the British cycling team, they had only won a single gold medal at the Olympics. No British cyclist had won the Tour de France for 110 years. The top European bike manufacturers refused to sell them bikes for fear it would ruin their reputation and their sales of their product. So here they had just years and years and years of failure of things. And I'm sure they're at a point where they're like, we don't even know what to do, what we're doing wrong. Like, what do we even do? We're doing the very best that we can. Well, they decided to hire a new coach, and his name was Dave Brailsford. And this happened in 2003. And immediately, Brailsford decided to implement a new strategy, and he called it the aggregation of marginal gains. So again, like doing those little things, little tweaks, and to make a big change. So this is what he said about this. This is a quote from Brailsford. He said, the whole principle came from the idea that if you broke down everything you could think of that goes into riding a bike and then improve it by 1%, you will get a significant increase when you put them all together. So they decided to look at the obvious changes, right? Like looking at bike design, uniform fabrics, tires, different tires that would have better grip. And then they did unexpected things, right? Things like what kind of beds were they sleeping on to get the best night's rest? What were they doing to avoid getting sick? What types of massage gels were they using to help their muscles recover from their workouts? So in all of these things, they looked at every single thing that they could think of, and they made minor changes. And pretty soon, it did take some time, but they started to see some results. So in 5 years from this point, by 2003, they took home 60% of the gold medals at the Olympics. And then in another 4 years, they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. So between 2007 and 2017, they won 178 world championships, 66 Olympic and Paralympic gold medals, and 5 Tour de France victories. So they completely did a 180 on their trajectory of where they were going, all by doing small things. So what do small things look like in your life? Well, in my life, they look something like this. Changing one negative thing I say repeatedly to myself. Not reading novels during my morning routine time. Now, this one, I mean, these are all very unique to me, right? So these are issues that I've had. I love reading, and I love reading in bed. And it's just the way that I calm down. And sometimes I don't sleep very well at night. And so I'll just read. And sometimes that reading time bleeds into my morning routine time. And so I have to make an effort to put my books down so that I get that time that I need in the morning for my morning routine. Another thing that is a small thing that for me is singing something every day to improve my own personal vibe, increasing the amount of vegetables I eat daily, listening to what my soul needs to heal and reconnect to my higher power on any given day. Being very internal and intuitional. I don't know if that's a word. Listening to my intuition on the things that I need. So these are the types of things that help me to improve a little bit every day. They look a little bit different every single day. And so that's kind of that last one is, really listening to what do I need to make those small improvements? What do I need to progress that day? And sometimes it's taking a nap. Sometimes, because I'm exhausted and I can't even think clearly. And so it's really looking at what are those little things that I can do to make my life a little bit better that day. So here's something to consider though. Eventually, you will be challenged by where you're at in those improvements. So remember the cycling team, they ended up having to do competitions. They ended up at the Olympics. They ended up doing, the teammates did Tour de France. They ended up having to be tested by their improvements and see what they have done. And so those challenges will come to you as well. And so look out for them because they may be little things, they may be big things, right? But the question is, how do you face that challenge? Do you go up against that challenge with confidence? Do you shy away from it? Are you willing to take on the challenge? So depending on the challenge, you may pass with flying colors. It may be not even a big deal to you when, several years before, it would have been a huge deal. So those are super huge successes. And those are the big kinds of changes that we're looking for. But there are also sometimes when you may not pass with flying colors. You may be disappointed in the results that you got from facing that challenge. And so I want you to be aware of some things when you're facing those times when you feel like, oh, I've been working so hard at this and it's just not coming. So number one, I want you to think about is you may find that you have to recommit to what you want to be and what your why is. You may have to tweak it. And or you may have to alter it, or you may just go, yes, this is for sure what I want, and I'm going to keep going. This is okay. The challenge may have brought up a new perspective or a new insight that you needed to consider in order to help yourself overcome, help yourself make those changes, so that you can make the bigger changes. So look at that challenge as a way of self-reflection and as a way to really see the progress that you have made. One way that we can look at that progress is to look back through any kind of journal that you may be keeping. Now, if you're not keeping a journal, I highly suggest you do this. Even if it's something simple as, hey, these are some things that I did today and what I thought about them. Super easy. Or these are 5 things that I'm grateful for. That's it. Because you can learn a lot about the things that you're grateful for, especially if you're very specific, like I'm grateful for this conversation that I had with my child or whatever, right? Because I've gone back and looked at these journals and things that I've jotted down, and it's really telling because I can tell the kind of difficulties that I'm having because of the words that I use to write these things down. And so looking back through any kind of journals that you have is really, really telling as far as, what kind of progress that you've made. All right. So number 3 is going through these challenges may bring up holes in your personal development that need to be improved. You might think, oh, I really need to work on my patience more, or I could really work on just smiling more throughout the day. That I think that would really help me. And so it's having those challenges, those bigger challenges, so that help us to see where those holes are so that we can know how to improve. And then the last one I want you to consider is to just be proud of yourself for trying. Progress is the key, not the position in the race, because really the race is only against yourself. It's not against anybody else. Nobody else matters in this context, right? And so as long as you are making progress, even if you've had to take a tangent on that, on your road to progress, right? On your road to success, whatever that looks like. Even if you've had to take a tangent, have you progressed in that tangent? Because eventually you're going to come back, right? And that you're going to be learning something, and then you're going to come back and you're going to put it all together. So progress is the key. That is what you want to look for. The idea is to keep going, to have your eye forward, but to continue to measure your success, however you do that. So I hope you find that beneficial. I hope you find it helpful. I know these things have really, really helped me when I'm faced with a challenge and I just feel like, oh man, here we go again, but it's really actually fun to see, wow, I have totally changed. The way I approach this is totally different. And that is super, super fun. Are there things that I always want to change more? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's always things that I want to improve about myself and things that I want to accomplish. And it's just really fun to see that progress happening. Now, here's something also I'm going to add one more. Sometimes it's really hard to see those incremental improvements, those 1% improvements, but it's when you keep doing them over and over and over again and have that consistency, that's when you really start to see things. And that's when, looking back over journals and past experiences really, really helps. So again, I hope that really helps on your own journey to success. And until next time, remember that your purpose is in your story. Take care.
Celebrate your dreams, let them take flight, for you are a star, shining bright in every step you take. Let your